Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's the 20th day of August. And we have one night of the Democratic National Convention in the books. And yeah, it was about as well orchestrated and managed as you imagine, with Joe Biden, the key speaker of the evening, not appearing on stage until 11:30. Thanks, guys.
It's nice and early.
Yeah. Coming up at 6:35, we're going to talk to Ryan Morrow of Capital Research Center because he's been diving into the organizations that are funding all those pro-Hamas protesters outside the convention. 7:05, James Rosen of Newsmax is there in Chicago. 7:35, Derek Anderson running for Congress in Virginia. 8:05, Neil Parrott running for Congress in Maryland. He's got some new polling that's giving him some hope. And then at 8:35, Julio Rosas, national correspondent for Blaze. He's tracking the protests over there in Chicago as well. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor. You already heard her jumping in here on a Tuesday. It's Patrice Onwuka as Julie Gunlock is on vacation. Good morning, Patrice.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good morning, folks.
So did you try to stay up and watch?
I tried, but Larry, we're on so early. So, I didn't catch everything. I did go back and watch some clips, and I didn't miss anything.
If you look at how the Republican convention went, yeah, if you did miss anything, and I'm guessing most of the people listening right now did not listen, you'll hear everything you need to hear coming up in the next hour or so. But, if you look at how the way the Republican convention was managed, every night there was like the top speaker, whether it was J.D. Vance or Donald Trump or what have you. And things were managed and scheduled out in such a way that top speaker spoke during the 10 o'clock hour.
Which is perfect prime time for both East and West Coast citizens.
Right. You deliver your messaging across the evening, and then you culminate there, and then you try to finish up sometime in the 11 o'clock hour. If you can aim for 11 o'clock so you can go to the local news, that's great. If not, you go a little bit over. Joe Biden did not make his way to stage till 11:30 last night, which I guess is great in the West Coast. But how did he do it? Oh, well, he was just in his hermetically sealed, little capsule back there as they were pumping the oxygen in.
I did see him earlier in the day, and he was so zoned out. So maybe the zombie thing was midday, and then he got his juices flowing by 11 o'clock last night.
Well, we'll get into some of the things he had to say and the lies that he screamed angrily into the microphone in his final public appearance it's his final political appearance of his illustrious and lamentable career. But, the reason why things went late is because they had to make room for the most likable politician in America.
Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial, and when he woke up, he made his own kind of history. The first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions. As vice president, Kamala sat in the Situation Room.
Hillary Clinton being drowned out by chants of lock him up. Nothing says we're not vindictive and use the Justice Department for political purposes like screaming that. And here's Hillary Clinton, I guess, having some sort of vindictive victory lap. See who's the felon now. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton walking around as a free woman is living proof that Donald Trump will not be the fascist who uses the Justice Department as a weapon like we continue to hear that he is. Otherwise, she would be in jail. I mean, he literally said, yeah, you know what, let's move on as a country. Let's not do that. I doubt he'll make that mistake again the second time around.
Well, the first time around, he actually never did. He never weaponized the Justice Department against Hillary Clinton or his political adversaries. And then during the campaign trail, he said, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to move on, taking all of the air out of the balloon. But by the way, Hillary Clinton was so offbeat with a lot of the Harris campaign messaging. It's not even funny because, frankly, they have not been touting the historicism of Kamala. I'm going to try my best, Larry, to get her name right. Kamala, trying to downplay the historicism of the first female president. And last night, that is all Hillary Clinton made her speech about, breaking the glass ceiling, as though she wished she could rip Kamala's skin off and put it on her body and be the one to get sworn in.
Oh, don't give her any ideas.
That, and also, this idea of President Trump and the indictments, you haven't been hearing that line of attack from the Harris campaign at all, which tells me that I think the media and the campaign recognizes it probably does them no help and probably helps President Trump.
Right.
Hillary Clinton was using that.
You're right. That's a good point. And it does remind people what they did to Donald Trump, and it sort of makes him a sympathetic figure to those that think that it was all a political scam. There were other times where she was off message, as you put it. They would listen to this one.
Kamala cares about kids and families, cares about America.
There are literally vans outside that arena performing abortions live on the scene. But Kamala cares about children and families.
You can't make it up.
No, you can't. And she also did this whole thing about conspiracy theories.
No matter what the polls say, we can't let up. We can't get driven down crazy conspiracy rabbit hole.
Well, you mean like Jeffrey Epstein's client list? What kind of conspiracy theories are we talking about exactly, Hillary?
Or like the Russia hoax, that was paid for by her campaign.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a good conspiracy theory. Is that the one that she's talking about?
Probably.
The last 2 months of her entire campaign was driven by conspiracy theories about Donald Trump that bled over into the actual presidency. This is a woman who destroyed her laptop while she was under investigation. She knew she was under investigation for the use of private emails. And then she destroyed her laptop, and she allowed top-secret classified emails to be downloaded onto Anthony Weiner's unsecured laptop.
Oh, goodness. We know what else was on there.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what they have to do. I mean, they have to prop these people up as their icons on the opening night. But this is why Joe Biden had to wait so long, because Hillary had to have her moment.
Well, and it's so funny they talk about this campaign I think the tagline is moving forward or something forward. Yet they couldn't help but bring in these dinosaurs from blasts from the past. Well, and Hillary Clinton, you could just tell she wishes that she was the one getting the nomination. And the only people who cared about her like this were in that room last night. Go outside those walls, and there is no Hillary love. So it was her moment. It was her time, I guess.
I guess it was. But the one other message that we keep hearing from the Kamala Harris campaign is we're not going back. We're not going back. We're moving forward. We're turning the page. We're turning the page. And then what was yesterday? Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. The entire thing was, hey, remember us? Remember these people? She did nail one part of the Kamala messaging, though. I mean, the part that's a lie. Listen.
With faith in each other and joy in our hearts, let's send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House.
She's already in the White House. That's the part of the messaging. That's the lie. Right. It's like there's a big part of the messaging. You got to get me elected so I can do something to fix this country. Ma'am, you're the vice president.
You are already in office.
And the president is incapacitated.
In
yes.
Well, that is underscored no better than the actual party platform that still reads about Joe Biden. Joe Biden's name is dropped in there like 300 times, and Kamala Harris's last name shows up about 32 times. I actually did the search. And her first name is not in there once. So, I mean, listen, take from it what you want, but they cannot untether Kamala Harris from Joe Biden and, frankly, from Hillary Clinton and, frankly, from Obama. They are all one long train of Democratic morass.
Kamala. It's 5:15. WMAL traffic.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So that was the Hillary portion of your evening. Sorry. Although somebody did do a good side-by-side comparison. If you really want to, like, sort of, okay, who do you want representing our country and fighting for the working people of America, the DNC. Here's a good side-by-side of the Democrat convention and the Republican convention. First, you'll hear from the Democrats. This is a member of the UAW making the case for the blue-collar workers of America.
The great American poet, Nellie. It's getting hot in here.
Now, and then he takes off his jacket, showing a UAW-printed union shirt that says "Trump is a scab," right? It's the whole,
Leave it to it.
Yeah, and he's just sort of like a middle-aged dad dude. He sort of reminds you of Tim Walz, right? He's not, he's having trouble finding his remote, I guess, is the best thing I
Especially the
say.
Nelly reference. That did not. We all know it's getting hot in here, whatever. But come on now. That's embarrassing.
Takes off the jacket to reveal his T-shirt, his Trump is a scab T-shirt. So you got the DNC.
Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
So there you got Hulk Hogan at the RNC taking off his outer layer in his own.
Ripping off, yeah.
So, the Hulkamania is one way to go. I mean, you choose your fighter, America.
Yeah, this is comparing one type of masculinity to anti-masculinity. Listen, we want the real men to stand up and the whatever that union guy did to sit down. But hey, this is the Democratic Party versus the Republicans. So
we finally got to Joe Biden speaking, but first we had to hear from his wife, Dr. Jill, the woman who's been covering up the truth about his health, the woman who's been managing cabinet and economic meetings, as far as we know, the woman who's been sort of doing her best to ensure that her husband can stay in power right up until the point where, well, she can't keep him in power. And so now she was trotted out to introduce her husband, President Biden. And, you almost your heart almost broke for her, right? Especially given the fact that for this entire charade to happen, for this entire silent coup to happen, for the entire DNC without a single vote being cast to sit here and do a coronation of Kamala Harris, you have to lie and you have to pretend that Joe Biden wasn't forced out against his will, led by Nancy Pelosi, right? So here's Jill Biden trying to put forth the brave face.
And weeks ago, when I saw him dig deep into his soul and decide to no longer seek re-election and endorse Kamala Harris.
No one believes her. No one believes that he dug deep into his soul and decided to no longer seek re-election. He was forced out. We know it. He even said it.
There was some digging. It was the knife in his back. I mean, by Nancy Pelosi and President Obama, that's the digging that occurred. I get what she's trying to do. She's trying to say there was some bargain that was made. Hey, you're going to step aside. We'll give you a primetime slot. You're going to have your moment in the sun. And the wife is like, okay, we'll play along with this. Just make sure that if Kamala wins, that my husband doesn't get prosecuted, nor my son-in-law.
Yeah, Kamala. So there, you're right, but except the primetime spot didn't really happen, did it? Because he didn't make his way to the stage.
It was in the late primetime
yes.
hour, I guess.
So, we're going to get to the Joe Biden stuff right now. I'm going to start with this, though, because I think that, first of all, it's the most newsworthy part of it because it actually suggests a shift in policy. But it was also probably the most atrocious and embarrassing and frankly, un-American part of it, where he embraced Hamas and he embraced the protesters who have been screaming anti-Semitic slogans for the last 10 months in America. Listen to this.
As you know, I wrote a peace treaty for Gaza. A few days ago, I put forward a proposal that brought us closer to doing that than we've done since October 7th. We're working around the clock, my Secretary of State, prevent a wider war and reunite hostages with their families, and surge humanitarian health and food assistance into Gaza now. To end the civilian suffering of the Palestinian people, and finally deliver a ceasefire and end this war.
And then he went on to say, and you'll hear it in just a moment, that the protesters out in the streets who were chanting anti-Semitic slogans on behalf of Hamas had a point. He said they have a point. And, of course, the point that they're trying to convey in their chants is to globalize the intifada, which one can only suggest Joe Biden doesn't literally know what that means. You're going to hear more from Joe Biden and his embarrassing, sad, depressing kickoff of the DNC coming up in just a moment. It's 5:23.
Now
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. A busy Tuesday morning as we begin our recap of last night's opening foray for the Democratic National Convention. At 6:35, Ryan Morrow of Capital Research Center will tell us what he's learned about the organizations funding those protests outside. Also at 7:05, James Rosen of Newsmax in Chicago. 7:35, Derek Anderson running for Congress in Virginia. 8:05, Neil Parrott running for Congress in Maryland. And at 8:35, Julio Rosas on the ground with those protests. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good morning, everybody.
A few days ago, I put forward a proposal that brought us closer to doing that than we've done since October 7th. We're working around the clock, my Secretary of State, to prevent a wider war and reunite hostages with their families, and surge humanitarian health and food assistance into Gaza now.
A angry and apparently somber Joe Biden last night, giving you a glimpse of what the campaign would have been. A very dark suit, by the way, with very dark lighting. It was a somber mood, frankly. And everything was delivered in that very forceful, angry sort of, this is what he, I think, interprets as a determined kind of political message. But it comes across as angry. That's one of the reasons why he wasn't doing well in the election. That's why Donald Trump beat him. He's been defeated. He is a defeated man. That message, though, about surging aid into Gaza, of course, I'd love to see the fact checkers there at CNN and MSNBC if they were handling this, because I wonder if he's alluding to the $150 million floating pier that he demanded be built that was at the State of the Union in March when he announced that. And, of course, the Corps of Army Engineers did their duty, and they built that pier. And, of course, the Mediterranean then washed it away. Ended up costing $320 million, over twice the original estimates, and was in operation for about 10 days. Whatever aid was surged through that floating pier ended up in the hands of the Hamas terrorists and never to the Palestinian people. So that's Joe Biden. He stands up there and he says things forcefully, and he gets an applause line, but actually nothing happens. And if he does try to do something, costs way too much of our taxpayer dollars and actually never makes a difference.
You know, I wish he would direct some of his ire and anger towards Hamas, who constantly denies and backs out of every ceasefire deal or agreement that is presented to them. They will claim they want a ceasefire, but they don't. They will claim they want a two-state, solution. They don't. They want to continue to terrorize their own people and to terrorize Israel. And so that's where really his energy should be, not softly saying, Israel, you need to cut it out and you need to stop this campaign against a terrorist group that's trying to destroy you. So listen, Joe Biden last night, I think he was trying to prove that he's still got it, that he's still got the fire in his belly. That's not what we saw last night. We saw the gasp of a desperate old man who can't let go of the seat of power. And
when conveying that fire in his belly, he shouted angrily and lied about Donald Trump and about conservatives. And I want you to hear those lies. But you're right in that in this speech last night, he took the side of the terrorists. And I'm not necessarily meaning the Hamas terrorists, although by extension it is the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. He took the side of the terrorists on the streets in Chicago, the terrorists who are holding the Democrat Party ransom right now. In exchange for their votes, they are forcing the Democrats, led by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to acquiesce to their demands. These are the domestic terrorists that we're seeing right now, forcing the Democrats to change their policy and condemn Israel. Listen to what Joe Biden said last night.
To end the civilian suffering of the Palestinian people and finally deliver a ceasefire and end this war. Those protesters out in the street, they have a point. A lot of innocent people are being killed on both sides.
By the way, that's not the point of the protesters. They are not concerned about innocent people being killed on both sides. Bill Hemmer of Fox News had a scoop on that line right there. The protesters on the streets have a point.
Two bit of news here. You may not have been able to catch it from watching the speech. He ad-libbed two lines that I think made news. Number one, those protesters outside have a point. And then he went on to say on both sides, he ad-libbed that line. And then he said toward the end, he said, all that talk that I was angry to step down, it's not true. That was not in the prompter either.
All right, so that's Bill Hemmer reading the prompter along with what Joe Biden is saying. And I think that's instructive as well. All right, do we want to get to the lies? Do we want to get to all the lies?
Absolutely, bring him on.
All right, let's start with this one.
He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words.
Now, that's the
you notice the audience didn't say anything like, boo, I can't believe it, no way. No, because they know he's lying.
Yeah. They know better. The actual crowd is like, oh, gosh, Joe, you've already tried this for the last 3 months. It's not going to work. Of course, that's not the only lie. There's this one, his favorite lie about Donald Trump and those who vote for him and support him. Oh, sorry. Stand by.
President was asked what he thought had happened. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides. My God." That's what he said. That is what he said and what he meant.
Now, the crowd, they're too far gone on the Charlottesville both sides
They can't imagine that that's not true.
They have to jump on board with that.
Yeah.
He also, you know what? We'll get into what he had to say about illegal immigration in just a moment. He, I think he misspoke and said that he and Kamala, that he and Kamala are trying to strengthen illegal immigration. I don't know if that's exactly what he meant.
Yikes.
I mean, if that is what they're trying to do.
Saying the quiet part out loud, Larry.
Mission accomplished, right? Yeah. So we'll get to that in just a minute.
.com. WMAL, making sense of mainstream media because the double standard is real. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Kamala and I are committed to strengthening legal immigration, including protecting dreamers and more.
Yeah, I think he really did mean it. They're looking to strengthening illegal immigration. Here, listen again.
Kamala and I are committed to strengthening legal immigration, including protecting dreamers and more.
I mean, if you're saying we're going to protect dreamers, then, I mean, they're a result of illegal immigration. So there you go. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are interested in strengthening illegal immigration.
Kamala and I are committed to strengthening legal immigration.
Oh, well, I mean, mission accomplished, I suppose.
I might give him a little understanding because the way I heard it, it just sounded like he strung the words together. So he could have said legal immigration. He could have said illegal immigration. Either way, his policy actions demonstrate he has been strengthening illegal immigration.
Yeah, he has definitely strengthened illegal immigration. Again, he had that sort of angry, sort of shallow look in his eyes, the dark black eyes with the very wide pupils. Not a lot of smiles from Joe Biden. And again, more screaming, more shouting. It's like his attempt to be intense is to just shout. By the way, this is on a day when 3 House committees delivered their impeachment report.
Oh, that's right.
Inquiry saying that he had, in fact, committed high crimes and misdemeanors and should face impeachment and conviction by the Senate. But here he is repeating more lies about Donald Trump.
He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
Shouting, screaming. So, again, it goes on and on and on. What I found interesting here, Patrice, if I may,
Sure.
is you talk about how there was a disjointed message here because the Harris campaign, they've been trying very hard to deliver a certain kind of message, and much of it has been to distance themselves from the policies of Joe Biden, the incredibly unpopular policies of Joe Biden that led Nancy Pelosi to demand that he step off the ticket in the first place, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, Kamala Harris is the vice president. She was the deciding vote in the economic policies that the Biden-Harris administration has enacted. So how do you do that exactly? How do you separate yourself from Joe Biden, but at the same time know that the facts suggest that you're responsible for the Biden-Harris economic policies? Well, Joe Biden didn't do her any favors last night. Listen to this.
I mean, Kamala and me. Just think about it. COVID no longer controls our lives. We've gone from economic crisis to the strongest economy in the entire world. Record 16 million new jobs. Record small business growth. Record high stock market. Record high 401ks. Wages up. And inflation down, way down, and continuing to go down.
Now, that didn't come in the speech until about midnight, Patrice, because the
Wow.
last thing Kamala Harris and the Democrats and their pals in the media want is Joe Biden bragging about how great the economy is right now. Strongest economy in the world, more jobs than any other president. Things are great right now. We brought inflation up because if you look at it for the last week, all Kamala Harris has been talking about is how she's going to fix inflation and she's going to put the economy back on track. And it calls for drastic policies like price controls, right?
Yes.
Her entire message has been the economy's broken and I'm the person to fix it. You just got to vote for me. Here's Joe Biden saying Kamala and I have fixed the economy and everything's great right now. So the question is, when Kamala Harris delivers her speech on Thursday night, will she say the same thing about the economy that Joe Biden just said Monday night? And I guarantee you she will not.
Yeah, she can't. She's going to have to try to create a contrast, right? So part of it will be, this is what we inherited. This is what I worked with Joe on, but we didn't go far enough. That's what I expect her to say. We didn't go far enough in advancing this climate agenda. We didn't go far enough in taking a heavier hand of government intervention. We didn't go far enough when it comes to foreign policy. However she's going to position it, she's going to recognize what has happened under Biden because she can't untether herself from it. I mean, for goodness sakes, you look at the Democratic Party platform released yesterday, and it is everything Biden-Harris, Biden, Harris, Biden-Harris. So she can't untie herself from that. But what she can say is, well, I should be elected because I would have done things a little differently than my boss did. He did it okay, but I'm going to knock it out of the park. And that's really not a good, good enough to be able to separate herself from him and for voters to say, well, I'll choose you over President Trump.
Right, because Americans don't think we're on the right track.
They don't.
In any way whatsoever.
They don't. Nor do they trust her.
But this is what they're stuck with. One other quickie, we got more audio from last night, and also we'll tell you about the protests. But we did get a brand new accent. We love when they break out new accents.
All right, where are we coming from there?
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
AOC apparently is from the southern part of the Bronx there.
The Southern Baptist Convention. That's what I picked up there.
Yeah, there you go. It's 5:50. They're all phonies. 5:53.